In 2001, a device promised to revolutionize personal transportation as we knew it, hailed as a world-changing invention. It was so secret, so groundbreaking, that it was codenamed Ginger and ET, the next big thing. Major publications like Time and Businessweek clamored for details, speculating wildly about what this marvel could be. Steve Jobs himself declared it would be as big a deal as the PC. Jeff Bezos predicted it would change cities forever. Yet, just 2 decades later, this revolutionary machine, once valued at billions, is largely a punchline, a forgotten curiosity. What truly happened to the Segway, and how did a device destined for greatness become an emblem of commercial failure? To understand the Segway's spectacular rise and even more spectacular fall, we need to go back to its visionary founder, Dean Kamen. Kamen wasn't just any inventor, he was a rock star of innovation. Known for creating the first wearable insulin pump, the home choice peritoneal dialysis system, and eventually the iBot stair-climbing wheelchair for the disabled, Kamen epitomized the inventive spirit. He held over 400 patents and built a reputation for designing elegant solutions to complex problems. In 1999, his company, Deka Research and Development, began working on something truly unprecedented. This wasn't merely an incremental upgrade to an existing technology. This was a complete reimagining of personal mobility. The machine used dynamic stabilization, a revolutionary gyroscopic balancing system that allowed it to stay upright on just 2 wheels, mimicking human balance with near-perfect precision. Kamen believed this technology could liberate people from cars for short distances, making cities more pedestrian-friendly and efficient. The secrecy surrounding IT was intense, almost theatrical. John Doerr, a prominent venture capitalist at Kleiner Perkins, saw the prototype and described it as eerie and magical. He leaked details to a handful of influential figures, including Steve Jobs and Jeff Bezos, under strict non-disclosure agreements. The hype built to a fever pitch. Books were written speculating about it before anyone had even seen it. The media referred to it in hushed tones, creating an almost mythical aura. This intense build-up, however, would prove to be a double-edged sword. When the Segway human transporter was finally unveiled on ABC's Good Morning America in December 2001, the reaction was not the universal awe Kamen and his team had hoped for. Instead, many felt a profound sense of disappointment. After years of breathless anticipation, the IT that was supposed to change the world turned out to be, well, a scooter. A brilliantly engineered self-balancing scooter, but a scooter nonetheless. It didn't fly, it couldn't turn invisible, and it didn't create clean energy. It was a standalone personal transportation device, and for many, the reality simply couldn't live up to the astronomical expectations fostered by years of hype. Adding to the public's lukewarm reception was the price tag, $5,000, which was an exorbitant amount for a device that seemed to solve a problem that most people didn't actively perceive they had. Who exactly was this for? It wasn't a car, it wasn't a bicycle, and it certainly wasn't cheap. The vision for the Segway was grand, a ubiquitous form of urban transport, transforming commutes and cityscapes. However, numerous factors conspired against this dream. Firstly, its sheer novelty presented a regulatory nightmare. Was it a pedestrian? A vehicle? Each city, state, and country grappled with how to classify and regulate it, leading to a patchwork of confusing, often restrictive laws. In many places, it was banned from sidewalks and roads, leaving users with nowhere legal to ride. Secondly, the market segment Kamen targeted, individual consumers wanting an alternative to walking or driving, proved far smaller and less enthusiastic than anticipated. Most people didn't want to spend $5,000 to go slightly faster than walking, especially when they had to wear a helmet and often couldn't ride it where they needed to go. The learning curve, while not steep, still existed, and the perceived risk of falling, despite its sophisticated balancing, deterred many. Early adopters were often wealthy tech enthusiasts or those with niche needs, not the general public. Furthermore, the Segway faced an unexpected public relations disaster when, in 2003, President George W. Bush took a tumble off one during a casual ride, a moment instantly immortalized and widely circulated, inadvertently associating the device with potential clumsiness or difficulty. This was compounded by Steve Wozniak, co-founder of Apple, also falling off his Segway and breaking his arm. These incidents, though minor in the grand scheme, chipped away at the image of effortless, safe mobility. Then came the corporate acquisitions, a series of transitions that further illustrated its struggles. In 2009, British entrepreneur Jimmy Heselden, who owned a company that made products for the mining industry, bought Segway Inc., believing in its potential for industrial and commercial applications. But just 1 year later, in a bizarre and tragic twist of fate, Heselden died after falling off a cliff while riding a Segway. The irony was brutal, casting a macabre shadow over the already struggling brand. His death, an accident during a private ride, further fueled the public perception of the device as dangerous or impractical, despite its advanced safety features. The company continued to flounder, never achieving significant sales growth. In 2015, the final nail in the coffin seemed to be hammered in when Segway Inc. was acquired by Ninebot, a Chinese robotics startup known for producing, ironically enough, Segway clones and electric scooters that had become popular ride-sharing options in major cities. This acquisition symbolized the ultimate defeat. The original innovator was now owned by a company that had initially profited from imitating its designs. Under Ninebot, the Segway brand shifted focus, attempting to pivot to ride-sharing fleets and commercial uses like security patrols. But the consumer market remained elusive. The rise of electric bikes and more practical, compact e-scooters offered cheaper, more accessible, and less conspicuous alternatives, effectively rendering the original Segway design obsolete for many of its intended uses. The electric scooter revolution, ironically, was the final blow, usurping the personal urban mobility niche the Segway had once hoped to dominate. Finally, in July 2020, Ninebot announced it would cease production of the Segway personal transporter. The groundbreaking, much-hyped device that had once promised to change the world met its end not with a bang, but with a quiet whimper. It was a fascinating, almost poetic conclusion to a saga defined by lofty ambitions and a harsh, undeniable reality. The Segway story is a profound cautionary tale about marketing, expectations, and identifying a genuine need in the market. Dean Kamen's invention wasn't a failure of engineering, it was a marvel of technology. But it was a solution in search of a problem it could comprehensively solve for the masses. The world wasn't ready, or perhaps didn't genuinely want, such a radically new form of personal transport at that price point, with those regulatory hurdles. Its legacy exists now not as a city-altering machine, but as a fascinating footnote in the history of innovation, a testament to the fact that even the most brilliant engineering can fail if it doesn't align with practical human needs and regulatory landscapes. To this day, we may never fully untangle all the threads of its undoing, but the Segway's journey underscores a critical truth. Sometimes, the next big thing turns out to be just a very expensive, very advanced, two-wheeled curiosity. If you want more stories like this, the next video explores the mystery behind the sudden disappearance of the Zune.